All right, we are live. It feels good to be back, man. I don't even know how to express myself. I'm so ecstatic and so excited to be back on a microphone, to be here in general. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. If you're coming in late, if you're listening the next day, if you're listening later in the week via iTunes, Google Play, or any of the podcast apps that's out there, very grateful for your support and rocking with Tick Network, Tick Podcast, and of course myself, Super Podshots. Oh man, I have a lot to discuss. It's late. I do apologize for starting an additional 15 minutes late on top of what I already put. It's funny because my son, I had to feed him dinner. I got a late start with the kids, so it kind of put me behind just a bit. But what's really interesting is that I'm here, and I'll explain where I've been and what happened and why I was away for 2 weeks. And you haven't heard Tick Podcast, anything like that. So basically, normally I really keep to myself. It's not really no one's business what happened in my life, health wise or anything like that. But growing up, I've always been a healthy kid, always been a healthy person. I played high school football, Pop Warner football, college football, went into the Air Force in early 2000s. And when I went in, I wind up getting sick. Like I got real sick. Like I got bronchitis and something was wrong. While I'm going to the hospital, found out that one of my kidneys had been severely damaged. Like it had a cyst on it, and the cyst turned out to be tumorous. So they removed it or whatever. But in the end, everything was good. I was healthy, but I wound up getting medically discharged out of the Air Force. A couple years later, what wound up happening recently was that I had an influx or too many white blood cells in my body. And the white blood cells pretty much overwhelmed my other organ and was actually attacking it. So I don't feel this. Like, I don't know what's going on. I don't really feel what's happening to myself. There's no pain. All this stuff is happening internally. And it's like really like blowing my mind. So I go to the doctor and I do the blood work or whatever. Just happen to go to the doctor. Doctor's like, we need you to go in because you have this high level of whatever's in your blood. And I'm like, okay. So I go to the doctor. They admit me to the hospital. I go into the hospital, and then all of a sudden I get hit with this therapy plan of what's happening. And they're telling me like, your immune system's going haywire right now, and we need to stop it. We need to break this. We need to break this thing down. So basically, for 2 weeks, I went through these suppression treatments where, they removed plasma from my body, which binds the white blood cells, and wind up replacing it with these other white blood cells, which is pretty much a blood transfusion in a way. And then also suppressing the immune system so it could stop attacking my own body. It was insane. And one of the medicines that they use actually had a side effect where I could have gotten lymphoma. And that was serious for me because, you don't really think about your mortality at that point. I'm 36. I'm a young guy. I'm not going to sit up here and say I'm some type of gym person. I need to be like I used to be, but, I wasn't like some type of gym person. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, wow, this is crazy. And all I could think about is my son. And all I could think about is my daughter, my wife, the whole time. And not so much about, if I was to get sick from this more severely than I'm already am, but if I was to get something that serious where I had a cancer and I wind up losing my life early trying to save my life now, I just thought about my son being raised without a father. And as someone, and as many people know, and some of us out there who may have been raised without father or who have fathers that weren't there, you always want to do better. You always want to be better than what you had. And for me, I take a lot of pride in that. And that to me was the most devastating, most emotional thing I've ever experienced. I've never been so emotional in my life, just thinking that there could have been a possibility that I might have gotten sick to the point that I might not be there to see my son become a grown man, and I wouldn't know what type of man he would be in today's society, or my daughter for that matter. To let her see how men should treat her. That's really important to me. So I never thought about that at the time. But in the end, I did what I had to do. I had a bunch of, treatments and a bunch of procedures done and stuff like that. And, listen, man, the Xbox community held me down, bro. They held me down, man. Just being in there, I felt like I was just trapped in that room. I couldn't really go nowhere. Just in that room, man. I couldn't eat certain things. It was nuts, bro. It was freaking nuts. I literally had meatloaf like every day. I don't want to see any ground beef for a month at this point. it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. But, my team at TICGN, they were very supportive. They held it down while I was away. The Tick Podcast crew and the Multiverse and Double XP and Trophy Life, they held it down. And, the guys out there that supported me on Twitter and things like that, I really appreciated it, because it was at a point where, you're trying to keep your minds off of the negative stuff. And it was great. Scorpio news came out. We got to see the dude over at Kotaku make a fool of himself. You got to see the PlayStation guys and the Xbox guys talking about the Pro and the specs and everybody chiming in. So there was so much going on and so much to talk about. And, everybody's very supportive and all the well wishes, man. It was just amazing. And I'm just very grateful, man. I can't express how grateful I am to have people in my corner like that. Yeah, so thank you. Anyway, let's get on with today's show. Hey, Expedite, you're now rocking with your boy KORX Kal-El, the last son of Planet Xbox, and you're listening to Super Podshots. Again, man, it feels good to be back, man. I'm super energetic. I'm ready to go. This Scorpio news has got me excited. It should have you guys excited. I got my pass for E3. I got my passes for the Microsoft conference. I'm trying to set up passes to get into Sony and Ubisoft and Bethesda again, like I did last year. I'm trying to make sure, man, that you guys get all of the good stuff that we normally try to provide for you, the guys who love checking out, all the tech things that we do at E3 and everything like that. But we're going to jump into some topics. So one of the 3 topics I'm going to focus on today is obviously Scorpio thoughts, because I never really gave a true opinion on my thoughts with Scorpio. And I also want to talk about the exclusivity thing that Phil had spoken about in his address to the Xbox community, as well as Microsoft's climb over the last 3 years. And then, we'll see if I can get some questions in at the end. So first and foremost, I want to jump in with the Scorpio news. I just think that what Microsoft did was huge. It was big. A lot of people want to try to downplay it. Those who may not be interested in Xbox, those who feel like exclusivity is a very important thing. And don't get me wrong, it is. I really think exclusivity is a very important thing. I stressed it a lot. I can't be a hypocrite and say that it's not, when I sit up here and feel like, Microsoft's exclusive shouldn't hit PC, even though I understand from a business standpoint, I do understand that money is money. And when it comes to Microsoft, Xbox is just a division within a company that has their hands in a million pots. So I get what they're trying to do in that regard. I don't know if Windows 10 is successful. I think, and I had a long talk today with my friend AJ and Anchorman and the crew in a party chat about Windows 10 success. And I don't know if Windows 10 is successful. I'm sure the software adoption rate is, but I said this before, I don't think that third party will hop on board the way Microsoft wants third party to hop on board. It's a very challenging thing to try to convince a third party developer. And don't get me wrong, there's some people who have done it, but it's a very challenging thing to convince a third party developer to give up that additional sale. If I'm a person who makes third party games, I want to sell my game to as many people as possible to make as much money as possible. Giving away 2 licenses eliminates $1. It really does. So if I'm putting a game on Xbox, I'm going to give away another $60 for somebody who may be interested in picking the game up on PC or Windows 10. And unfortunately, that's what's happening. And that's why I don't really see this thing ever taking off to the point that we're just going to get every third-party title on Windows 10. And that's why, to me, it's not really a success, because I don't really see a lot of people jumping in. It's so scarce and it's so small, the amount of people, especially third-party support, that's jumped in. Yeah, you got some great titles. You got Resident Evil, and you're going to have Shadow of War. You got some indie games, which I think really that's where it shines the most in the smaller titles. I just don't know how it really affects big third-party publishers. EA comes out with Mass Effect, or they come out with, let's say, a Titanfall 2 or Titanfall 3 or 4. I don't see the incentive of putting it on Windows 10 and making it a play anywhere title when most Xbox gamers are going to buy it on Xbox anyway. And if you have an opportunity to get it for PC, why would you go through Windows 10 if you can get it and use it through Steam or Origin for that matter? So it's listen, it's a very weird thing when you have them trying to do this, but they're investing in this idea that they want to pursue. And I think that it will fail at some point. I really do. I know a lot of people feel like it's successful and you get two things, and a lot of Xbox fans may feel like, they shouldn't do it. I just don't see the long-term benefits of it, at least for third party. First party, absolutely. But Microsoft Microsoft has to be able to pump out their first party library. Almost needs to be at a level of like Nintendo for Play Anywhere to take off in any form of fashion, to be as successful as they want it to be long term. Now, there is success because it's digital and software revenue has increased. I don't know if that will continue to increase long term. Everybody and their mama is always talking about how they got some, awesome, amazing PC and they don't need an Xbox to play the games. I'm not seeing that reflected in sales. I'm just not. You know what I'm saying? Everyone's always talking about how they can get this game and that game, but I'm not seeing it reflected in sales when a good 85 to 90% of those sales come from the console. So it's just a weird situation and things like that. And watching these things unfold. But when it comes to Scorpio, the great thing about this machine, man, and the biggest, most important thing about this machine is how it not only does it improve new titles and brings 4K. And a lot of people feel like 4K is overblown. It really is. It's only overblown, I think, because you have certain people who feel like it's not relevant because it's not hitting their platform as much. And as much as I love PS4 Pro, we all know that PS4 Pro uses a checkerboard technique, which is an amazing technique, makes games look amazing. Horizon Zero Dawn is absolutely stunning. Have the game just beautiful, gorgeous game, absolutely. But with this new thing of going 4K native, it's a big deal. And a lot of people feel like that's overblown when you have checkerboard. I think what people miss is the texture package. That's what really separates this console from the Pro. And I think this is what will really separate the console from the Pro. What people aren't realizing is when everybody talks about 4K all the time, yes, you're going to have native 4K titles. You're not going to have 100% native 4K titles. What's significant in that is that if you don't have a 4K title, the super sampling, to me, is the most significant thing on this console because it allows you to keep 4K textures at 1080p. That's a significant difference from watching a game in regular 1080p to having a 4K texture pack at 1080p. And with that 4K texture pack, by the way, it's only a hit to performance of 1%. A 1% hit to performance. 1% hit. -1. That's it. Out of like 99, out of 100%. You drop to 99% when adding 4K textures. That's a big deal. That is absolutely a big deal. And allowing that on a console and then downscaling that to 1080. And this is why I sit up here and when I watch people talk about Scorpio, I realized that they didn't really understand or invest the time to study what Microsoft put into this console and why it's so future proof. People don't think about that. It's not about just resolution. It's also about alleviating the bottlenecks in the same CPU that they had on the Xbox One. What they wound up doing was taking Xbox One. We all know what Xbox One was, what it did good, what it did bad. Okay. They then turned around and they came out with the Xbox One S. They tried to improve upon Xbox One S. They went ahead and added HDR, 4K upscaling resolution. And between those two consoles, they used Scorpio to fix all the bottlenecks that they found in all the games, every game, running 30,000 simulations, 30,000 simulations on every Xbox One game released to find every bottleneck and every issue, all of the hard points on the CPU, and to alleviate those hard points for Scorpio. So the goal of Scorpio isn't to try to outmuscle PS4 Pro or outmuscle your PC. This is what Scorpio wants to do. And I want people to try to understand this analogy. When you have a PC is always brute forcing it. We've all heard this 1,000 times. We all understand, okay, Scorpio wants to be efficient, yada, 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 yada. But what Scorpio really wants to do is, while the PC, as powerful as it is, wants to use its GPU at, let's say, 85%, but can only do it about 75% of the time because of the bottlenecks of the CPU, because it's not getting the access that it needs. Microsoft is trying to take the GPU of the Xbox and use it at 90 to 95% maxed out at 99% of the time, because the CPU bottlenecks are gone. The whole point is to try to get max efficiency, which pushes the console beyond what the numbers say. As a PC person, you get that, but you don't get it because it doesn't happen because it's on a PC. It's not optimized to do that, whereas a console is, and the engineers built it that way. The Hovis method is absolutely genius in itself. Every part of the motherboard has its own voltage. Instead of having one giant voltage running through the whole console, maybe even overheating certain parts that don't need the added energy, each part has its own voltage, allowing a certain amount of voltage and a certain amount of power to hit that part only, keeping things cool and under control. You know that this Scorpio is not even going to have like vents on the top. Everything is vented through the back. There's no vents on top of Scorpio. There's no vents on the side. It's just a back port. This is what they're designing with this vapor liquid cooling system. It's a genius. It's genius. It's just absolutely genius. I'm really impressed with this console. I really am. Everything's backwards compatible, all of your controllers, all of your accessories, all of your plugs, but it's very similar to the Xbox One S. There is no Connect port. However, if you have the Connect adapter, you can plug it into the back of the USB. They use Forza 6 because Forza obviously is one of the most fined, optimized, tuned games on the Xbox platform. And what's cool about it was they used the Apex demo to show off the game and show off what it can do under load and show off what it can do under load with 4K textures and kind of show you the strain on the CPU and GPU. But what's great about that is they're doing these things without even optimizing them, without even optimizing the game for performance. And even the dev kits are actually more powerful than the console itself. And what's crazy about that is what Microsoft wants devs to do is to max out their games as much as possible and downsample. People think that when they get these Scorpio games, they're going to start off at Xbox and work their way up. That's not what the new dev kits are. The new dev kits are actually like They already have like 24 gigs of RAM. They have double the RAM, like 6.2 teraflops of power. It's way more powerful than Scorpio by itself. Just the dev kit by itself is way more power than Scorpio by itself, which is just astounding to me. It's just astounding to me in itself. So they want devs to come in. They want you to put your game on the dev kit and max this thing out to its limits, and then bring it down to the level of Scorpio as much as you can and level the playing field and optimize. And the fact that people are able to get their game engines running up, they're giving the dev kits with 100 gigabyte transfer cables. In some instances, people can get their engines up in a day or less, or minutes, something that would take weeks. Just so that way, once you have your engine up running in the dev kit, all you have to do is optimize the rest of the way. I don't think people understand how important and efficient and proficient that is for a developer. You give me a dev kit and I don't have to spend a month getting my engine to work with your dev kit. If I can get my engine to work with your dev kit within a week or a day, then I can spend the next 6 months completely optimizing the game to perfection. People don't understand how time plays a factor. One of the things that most gamers always talk about is lazy devs. Keyword is lazy dev. This dev was lazy. You play this game, bro? This dev was eating Funyuns and drinking quarter waters. He wasn't working on this game. I couldn't even get off the second level. It's horrendous. Recore, man, they had a whole barbecue though that nobody worked on Recore. It's like there's like 50,000 orbs to get. I don't know what I'm doing in this game. No one worked on that game. Lazy devs. This is what they say. But it's really just a time-consuming thing. You're talking about trying to get game engines up and running. We all know the ESRAM issue with Xbox One. And now you don't have that issue because you have a unified system. And what's crazy about that is it's just really that it helps them eliminate time, which gives you more time to perfect your game. It gives you more time to eliminate the bugs and the issues. And you're going to start really seeing games turn out really spectacular. A lot of people are going to be surprised by this console. Now, listen, I'm not trying to sit up here and say this is like some 1080 Ti greatest thing since sliced bread. But in that one instance, when Ledbetter wound up doing the whole overview with Forza, one of the things they spoke about was how when the rain effects kicked in for Forza Apex, the 1070 had frame drops when it was wet. But Scorpio held its own. This is why you have Xbox fans jumping the gun just a bit, saying that it's about on the level of a 1080. Now, do keep in mind, Forza is one of the most highly optimized games out there. Forza is so highly optimized, they're pumping these things out on a two-year basis. It takes Polyphony Digital 55 years to drop one Gran Turismo, okay? So you know this engine is super optimized directly for Xbox, and that's why they always show off games using Forza, because Forza is a beautiful game. Anybody who denies that Forza is a beautiful game is just really playing themselves. But it's a very beautiful game. But it's also very optimized as an engine. So showing the game off to the public is easy to do. And I get that. I understand that. So I don't want people to jump the gun too much. However, when you see the game in 4K, you see the game, the little picture that they show with the 4K textures, it's really impressive. It really is impressive. And you still have room to go. You still have room to add effects. You still have room to do things. It may be 10%, but 10% could go a long way depending on what you're using it towards. And that's not even optimized yet to get more out of it. So that's why everybody kind of jumps the gun a bit. And they're like, oh, this game could do this and this game could do that. And it's going to do this and do that. And I get that. I really do. And honestly, it would be really impressive if they did have some games at 1080 with 4K textures, just because you want that realistic looking, you want the game to look as realistic as possible. And if the texture packs allow games to look and the environments to look as real as possible, that really just changes the dynamic of the game. I mean, having grass and environments look as authentic as watching TV or some sort of CGI animation. That's really big. That's really huge. So I think it would be really smart if they did show off some games in 1080, not using 4K, using some of the 4K processing to go towards the graphic fidelity of a game in 1080. Which is why I said the super sampling is very important, because if you have a game on PS4 Pro, let's say, for example, Battlefield comes out. Battlefield has, and Microsoft wants their games to be able to hit every level from 720 for every TV. And that's what's really important too. From 720 to 4K, you have to be able to have the game optimized for each television resolution. So if you have a game like Battlefront 2 and it comes out and they show it off on Pro and it looks amazing, it looks stunning, but someone's able to show it off on the Xbox Scorpio and they only have a 1080p TV, they can't use 4K. You're able to sample the game to 1080, get the 1080 resolution, but everything in the screen is 4K. That may look better than what's being shown on the Pro, if Pro doesn't have 4K textures. So that's why I'm like, it's really important, and I think that went over a lot of people's heads. So in my opinion, I still think the console is going to be $499. Myself and Anchorman V have a bet that if I lose, I will be calling myself the last on the PlayStation for a month, which is absolutely just crazy. So when you start hearing me talking about if I do lose, and don't get me wrong, I wouldn't mind losing because I would love to pick up a Scorpio up at $399. But if I do lose, if you start hearing me talking about this is Kal-El, the last on the PlayStation, you know why, okay? Then I proceed to talk about Xbox news, which will confuse the hell out of PlayStation gamers. But it is what it is. On the other hand, because he's such a Bethesda fanboy, if the console turns out to be $499, what will happen is he won't be able to play Fallout for the next 6 months, and he can't play the next Fallout release for a month from release. So that's after the price. So let's say, for example, a new Fallout comes out or a new Skyrim or something like that. He can't pick it up on Xbox for a month, and I know that would kill him. So that's the bet we got going on right now. But if it drops in between like $449 or $430, which there was a rumor today that it's going to be $399 in India, which is about $430 in the US, I think, then it's a draw and nothing happens. It is what it is. But that's just funny, and it's good to have fun in bets like that, man. You want to keep the game in 100 at all times. And things like that. So I think that's pretty cool. People should definitely do that. But yeah, so Scorpio is definitely an impressive console. I don't think people should look at Scorpio as some sort of thing that's going to make Microsoft make this amazing comeback. I don't think that's going to happen. Now at $399, that's a different story. $399, you may make a dent. I'm not saying you're going to make this comeback, but you may make a dent. You're talking about some amazing sales that can happen over the next year or two before Sony probably starts working on PlayStation 5, which I think won't come out to 2020 or 2021. But with Scorpio, I think at $399, you get amazing sales. I just don't see it at $399 because of the simple fact that I think they saved a ton of money. And this is why I think it's $499. They saved a ton of money by optimizing the cards that they put in there. They optimize it to the point that the cards aren't even basically the cards that you can get from AMD. A lot of people want to push that the CPU is a Jaguar. Yes, it started as one, but it's not anymore. All of the advancements and all of the customizations that they put into it, adding the DX12 to the hardware, it's just not. You can't pick that up from AMD. That is just completely custom hardware. It's unpurchasable and it's only in Scorpio. Same thing with the GPU. The GPU was so customized that they literally said that it's basically a Polaris, but it has some Vega tech in it. Not a lot. I don't want people to think that it's a Vega or it's so powerful and all the stuff like that, but it has some Vega features in it. and it's so optimized that you can't even look at it as a Polaris anymore. So it's very different and it's very unique. And that's why I want people to understand that don't compare this to a PC. Microsoft did kind of build a PC console, but it's really not. It's just a truly customized piece of hardware that's going to punch above its weight. And when people start to see that, I think they'll be really impressed. Now, the question is, who buys the console? And everyone is always talking about marketing deals and exclusivity and things like that. So listen, here's the thing. For 3 years, we've had people talk about how power was everything. You know, whether it was 30%, 50%, 5%, a couple blades of grass, or a higher resolution, that was super important. One of the key words I remember, and one of the key sentences I've always seen was, why in the hell would I spend $60 on the worst version of a game? That's just absolute fact. I mean, I've heard that 1,000 times. Didn't change the fact that the games were the same. They played the same. They shot the same story, just resolution. And because of that, that wound up building an animosity. And prior to that, with 360 and PS3, there was animosity there too with Xbox fans teasing PS3 fans. So what you wind up doing now is having this never-ending cycle of going back and forth, and people making points that power is now important again. Whereas in the first 3 years, Microsoft fans and Xbox fans talked about exclusives, dropping exclusives every holiday. Sony's being a bit sparse, relying more on indie titles and remasters and things like that. Microsoft had a few remasters as well, but they did have some new IPs I think people tend to forget. I don't know why people always do that, as if games like Rise and Sunset Overdrive and Ori and the Blind Forest and Quantum Break and all these other titles didn't exist at the time. People still forget Killer Instinct is not a new IP, but it was a rebooted IP, and it was pretty much new. We haven't had one since Super Nintendo or like N64. Like, a lot of people gloss that over, and it's one of the best fighting games out there. So it's just funny when you see these things, and Microsoft had a weak start to 2017, and all of a sudden they don't have any games because of the cancellations. And one of the things I talked about before was people were like, where are the games? And I said, what people don't realize was Microsoft actually was supposed to have Scalebound and Fable launched this spring with Phantom Dust and Voodoo Vince. And those were their 4 games to kind of hold them down. People forget that they still have preview program, and they still have, other things involved where you would have had access to maybe some early PC content, Conan Exiles, the other like Diablo game, Exile something, I can't remember what it is, but those games were coming to PC, City Skylines, things like that. A lot of people gloss over because Microsoft and their PC interactivity is so close. They've been working great with some PC developers of bringing those games over that are console exclusives. They are console exclusives. So those things get glossed over because they're not AAA titles. And Sony's backlog finally caught up, and they had an amazing start to the beginning of the year. But I constantly stress this, and I'm not trying to downplay PlayStation at all. People keep telling me, about Sony's first party and third party and stuff like that. But I'm just sitting here saying to myself, like, if the Japanese developers really wanted to, Neo, Persona, and Nier could all end up on Xbox at the end of the year. And they would still be highly rated, but then they would no longer be exclusive. Those are third-party titles. They're not owned IPs. And at the end of the year, you get God of War and you get Gran Turismo, which are staple franchises and stuff like that. I'm not really seeing why people are making a big deal of it, but I get it. It's hit gold, and that's great. And that's great for the PlayStation platform, and that's great for PlayStation gamers. As for Xbox gamers have to look forward to some great indie titles sometime in spring. You have Cuphead, Ashen, possibly Lost Pisces if it drops this year. Trying to think off the top of my head. I can't really think right now. There are a few others that had my attention. But there are a few others out there that you can look up that are really good, that are actually going to be coming through Idea Xbox. And then, of course, you have State of Decay 2, which is starting to look really good. Crackdown 3. Hopefully that pans out to be something special. Forza 7, and of course, what am I missing? Forza 7 and Sea of Thieves, if that ever drops, if that ever comes out, which honestly is the only game that kind of concerns me a bit. Now, Phil Spencer wound up coming out with a statement who talked about games that you can only play on Xbox. This is very confusing to me. I don't like this message. I like the message if the message sticks, but I don't like the message because it's confusing to me. And he said this before that, yeah, Xbox will still get its own exclusives and PlayStation and PC will get its exclusives. I don't understand why that just couldn't be from the start. That should have just been what they've done from the start. You know, listen, Microsoft is a large company. They could easily open up a few PC studios to make RTSs and whatever else you would play, MMOs, things like that. You would only play on PC where you could experiment on those things, and then just have certain games that may not appeal on PC on the Xbox One. But instead, they went with the Play Anywhere idea. And now people feel like if you don't put a game on PC, you're reneging. You are. You absolutely are. Let's just keep it 100 and call it what it is. You got to call a spade a spade. You would be reneging on the people who felt that they'll be able to get every Xbox game on PC. So now you have exclusivity once again. Some titles probably Crackdown. I don't know about Sea of Thieves. I think Sea of Thieves will go to PC. But what do you put? What game can you not put on PC that's not appealing? With controllers now, any controller, honestly, able to play on PC, what can you not put on PC? Why deny PC all of a sudden? You know what I'm saying? That's the thing that's confusing me. Now, I'm all for it. I think that is really important, having a game like Crackdown exclusive to Xbox and Forza, which I think they'll keep Forza exclusive, Forza 7, but they'll just come out with like Forza Apex 2 for PC. So I don't get it. And this is the type of confusing messages that I constantly get upset about long term, because I want the message to be clear for myself and for Xbox gamers. It's really important Microsoft continues to make sure that they have a clear message going forward. They're running on all cylinders, man. The Xbox base is getting revved up. We're getting hyped. E3 isn't too far off. We just heard about the console, you know, that we've been all dying to hear about for almost a whole entire year. It sounds amazing. We're all excited for E3. You know, you can't mess the message up. So hopefully, they're able to get the message right. Everything comes through clear, and we understand what they mean. Now, it would make no sense for them to come out with indie games and not put them on PC. I don't see why they wouldn't do that. But some AAA titles, especially if they're new IPs, I really think they should be exclusive. Absolutely. I don't think Halo will ever go to PC, at least not a new one. Maybe Halo 3, maybe Master Chief Collection. I don't ever see like a Halo 6 or a mainline Halo going to PC. That would just be crazy. Microsoft be shooting themselves in their own foot, honestly. But, you know, we'll see what happens. Like I said, I still feel like as a company, Microsoft interferes with Xbox a bit too much, and that's what kind of made them do what they do. Some people agree, some people don't, but that's just me. That's my opinion on it. So it's really important that Microsoft figures out what they're doing exclusivity-wise with whatever games they got coming out now and in the future. I'm hearing lots of rumors, as usual, Splinter Cell, same stuff over and over and over again. But what's big is the possibility of a new Star Wars game, which has been going around lately, a new Knights of the Old Republic or a reboot of Knights of the Old Republic. Now, let me tell you something right now. Microsoft show up on stage with Knights of the Old Republic, you might see some obscene things from Kal-El and Phil Spencer on stage, because I have been dying for a new Knights of the Old Republic for decades. That's how I feel. I feel like I've been dying for this thing forever, man. and I really, really want a new Knights of the Old Republic. Listen, I don't really care for the MMO. I never played it. If it came to Xbox, I probably would hop on it. But I'm just such a fan of the first two games that I would die for another one, especially a continuation of Revan's story. I think that would just be amazing if they were able to do that, or even if they wanted to continue with the new story with Luke and what they're trying to do now with the Last Jedi after this saga and stuff like that. I would love to explore that. It wouldn't be Knights of the Old Republic, but it would be like Star Wars, yada yada. But it would just be set kind of like an RPG, like the Knights of the Old Republic, but more up to date. And on Scorpio, I think it would just be amazing graphically. You just think about the special effects and the textures, and it's a linear game, so you can really pull it off. You don't have to be open world and explore everywhere. Just give me a lot of lore and a lot of great music, a great story, a great feeling, amazing force powers, and I'm in. That's it. I'm in. I really think Microsoft should try that. Definitely invest in that. Definitely invest in Jade Empire. They really need to invest in a lot of their early powerful exclusive titles from the original Xbox. I think one of the surprises at E3 will probably be OG Xbox backwards compatibility. And I don't know if that will hold me over, because if you go back and look at Knights of the Old Republic, it's not a pretty game. It really isn't. But at the time, it was stunning. But I just think that it would be crazy if they were able to pull that off somehow. And I said sometimes, people don't agree with me on this. Sometimes you don't want to just waste the money. Some people feel like if you do that, you're just wasting money. You're never going to recoup. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes you just got to do it. You just got to do it, because it just shows you your dedication to your base. Everyone who's ever played an Xbox, everyone who rocked with Xbox since day one, since 2001, since the console dropped, remembers games like Bloodwake and Brute Force and Crimson Skies and Fusion Frenzy and Blinks the Cat and Grab Out of Ghoulies and Knights of the Old Republic and Jade Empire, Advent Rising. Like, you can go on and on about some of these really awesome Xbox games, and people remember that. People want that feeling back, and Scorpio brings that feeling back because it allows developers to easily make games on a console and optimize them to the best of their playability. If you're able to then turn around and bring back some of those staple franchises of MechAssault, really brings back the nostalgia of what Xbox was. It was really the console that kind of brought the PC space to the console world. With PS2, Dreamcast, SNES, it was so many Japanese games. It was all about platformers and RPGs and things like that. And when you get introduced to shooters for the first time, games like GoldenEye and Halo and Half-Life, like, you get really blown away, and it really changed the game. It really did change the game for a lot of people. So bringing that back, would be very nostalgic for a lot of Xbox fans. And I think it would be big if they were able to do it. I think it would be really huge. Now, they don't have to do it for every game, but I think it would be really big if they were able to pull something off like that. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump into my final topic for the night. And then I will have another show on Friday, refocusing on some things that I also wanted to talk about while I was away. The rise and fall, or shall I say the fall and rise of X1. I had a conversation with Gabriel from Dual Shockers, and one of the things he brought up was, will PlayStation gamers convert from PlayStation 4 to Scorpio? I don't understand why it has to be a either or. Why not a both? I think people want to box consoles as if you have to choose a side. You don't have to choose a side. You can pick whatever you want to play with. Pause. But you can pick any console you want to play on. Let me say that instead. Well, what winds up happening is at some point you're gonna have to pick an ecosystem. I prefer Xbox ecosystem for the simple fact that they have the whole backwards compatibility thing going forward. Sony wants to continue with generations based on what they said. I don't understand, and people feel like that's smart. Some PlayStation fans feel like that's smart, and I don't know if that really is. I really don't. You know, a lot of people griped about PS Now and how they had to buy their games over. If you have a PS2 game and you have the disc, does it not make sense to figure out some sort of way to play the game that you already own? You have all these people who own physical media and always complain and talk about physical media and how important it is, how they need to hold on to the physical media because they own it, they control it. Yet you have a console that may not allow you to play it unless you have the original console. Whereas with Xbox, if you have the disc, you just need to get the license and boom, you just stick it in the console and it download the digital version. But the disc is the license. There are smarter ways to go about it. And I think it's smart Microsoft is doing this. Microsoft came out the gate 2013 and showed off a console that did not appeal to anyone. It didn't appeal to any gamers, led by Don Matrick and his idea that a mixture of entertainment and video games. And at the time, made sense to him because of the rise of digital programming, Netflix, Hulu. It made sense. Watching people play games was almost as as good as seeing watching people play games time wise was as high as the way people watch television. So for him, making the perfect all-in-one console made sense. And there was some great ideas in there. The whole family circle thing. Every time I think about it, I think about the T-Mobile commercial when it was like your circle. You got like 5 friends in your circle, and you guys all, I don't know what that did anyway, but still, it made sense where it was like if you had 5 people or 10 people on your friends list, they all shared your game. You can all share games among each other, but you couldn't, only one person could share the game at a time. Right? Well, that was the rule. Number one, only one person could share the game at a time, and only you and that person can play the game together. So if I had Madden, 10 of my friends had access to Madden, but they all couldn't play at the same time. Only one of them could play at a time. But if we wanted to play against each other, I could play against that person. It was amazing. Terrible for the industry. Do you know how many people would have not bought games? Imagine 10 people buying one game apiece every month on Xbox and then sharing that. That would have been a disastrous. Genius for the consumer, absolutely. Disastrous for the industry. That would have been horrible for the industry, because nobody would have been making money with Xbox at that point, which I still think to this day that game sharing affects sales in some sort of way. I do. For every game that your friend buys, you don't. That's $60 loss for that developer. The question is, how big is digital now? And digital is growing. It's constantly growing. You see GameStop over there sweating, boy. They over there like, Jesus Christ, boy, somebody get these boys. I tell you, boy, I'm telling you, GameStop is sweating. Digital is rising. So it's funny when I think about that. And they talked about how they maybe wanted to do some type of digital trade-ins, but the 24-hour check scared people off. Snowden flipped. Connect was ran by the NSA. There was a lot of stuff, man. People spying on you. It just really damaged them to the point that no one trusted them. And then, Don Matrick was like, deal with it. Major Nelson was like, yo, it can't be done. And then it was done. It was disastrous, man. And then you wind up, and this was crazy, at the reveal of Xbox One, people get that confused with E3. E3 was filled with games. The whole show was filled with nothing but games. Game after game after game after game. Amazing E3 2014 was. It was an amazing E3. Was it 2014 or 2013? 2013, excuse me. 2013's E3 was absolutely amazing. But in the end, people didn't gravitate to Xbox. A lot of indie devs gravitated to PS4. PS4 was easier to work with. Then you had the whole resolution gate thing, 720p, Battlefield. It was devastating for Xbox brand. But you had the hardcore hold on because they had games. There was a lot of great games that came out during that time. Crimson Skies, you had the golf game, you had Matt's Cursed Brotherhood, Killer Instinct was bare bones, but it was there. You had Dead Rising 3 and Rise. You had Forza, great lineup, great release lineup from Xbox. I remember that. It was awesome. What winds up happening over the time was it just stagnated. Connect was being a part of it. No one wanted Connect. And eventually Don winds up stepping down. Phil steps in and immediately makes changes, starts removing things from behind the paywall, removes Connect from the box eventually. They start doing the updates and changing the OS and everything. And immediately I remember, to this day, and I keep saying it over and over, I remember to this day, sometime around spring 2014, I'm just talking about looking for a super creative to start working on the next Xbox. And here we are in 2017 about to pick up Scorpio this holiday season and see what they have to show us at this E3. So it's definitely been a long journey for Xbox. These guys have been working their asses off to try to please the consumers. This refund policy is very smart on their part, and very consumer friendly, not anti-consumer. And that's great for them. They need to do more things like that. That $10 Game Pass is going to be successful for them. Absolutely will be successful for them. There's a lot of good games in that Game Pass, and they keep releasing new games every month. That's going to be big for them as well. So, my hat goes off to Microsoft and the direction that they're going, and hopefully, we see some new stuff at E3. I would love to see a new Fable. It's just one of the things that I really want to see. I don't know what they can show, but I would just love to know that Fable exists and some sort of RPG is coming out of the house that Phil built. Really, they really need this. They really need a major, impactful single player experience, not to compete with Horizon Zero Dawn, but just to balance out their library. And it really does. I think Microsoft has to find a balancing act. They rely too much on multiplayer because it makes them money, and as a company, that's what they think about while also making games. And I get that. But at the same time, you also have to think about balancing it out with just successful single player hits and give fans confidence in your storytelling. Because the stories are what capture people. The fun is in the multiplayer, but you got to balance it out. You can't just constantly drop multiplayer because that's what people think. And eventually that gets boring, especially when they come out so consistently. So having a single player experience, dropping a trilogy here or there, it's really important to work on that and improve upon that. And I hope that they have some sort of major new IPs or rebooted franchise that's very story driven, adventure driven, because they need it. They definitely do. Rise would be huge. Perfect Dark would be huge. Splinter Cell would be huge. But I really would like something medieval, something swordplay, something mystical, something magical. They need that. That's what I think they need at this E3. Star Wars is magical. Absolutely. They don't own it. BioWare owns it. No, excuse me. EA owns it. BioWare develops it, and Sony and Disney owns the license. I don't give a damn what Microsoft got to pay. Pay for it if you have to. Some people are like, it's not always about the money. Pay for it. I don't give a damn what it's about. Cut the check. I don't care how much it is. Cut the check, bro. Cut the check, bro. Phil, cut the check. Bugging out right now. Funny stuff. But anyway, so right now it's 12:30, man. I want to thank everybody for stopping out, man. 50 people in here having fun with me tonight. I really appreciate everybody stopping in. Listen, if you got questions, I'll go ahead and answer a few questions to the best of my ability, give you my thoughts on Scorpio, any games that I've been hearing about rumored wise. And, I'm working on some stuff, man. I've been in talks with Adam Boyce off and on. The scheduling is just tough right now with E3 and contacting some people at Xbox. I'm trying to pull off one more interview before E3 is over. Before I head out to E3 or E3 begins, honestly, to try to give you guys something nice before we get out of here. And listen, please give me feedback on any of the network shows, man. We're working really hard. Trophy Life podcast for the PlayStation gamers. I hope you appreciate what the guys over there at Trophy Life are doing. These guys are really, you don't understand the preparation that team does, man. They literally go out and try to get the best PlayStation news that they can get and try to focus on the positives of PlayStation without trying to be a hateful catalyst towards Xbox, because these guys all have Xboxes and they all play Xbox as well. And I really hope that the PlayStation fans appreciate the things that we try to do at Tick to accommodate you guys out there who want to know more about PlayStation and what's great and what's going on there with Nick and his team, as well as Multiverse. If you're a geek, by the way, did you see this new Krypton show? Oh my God. What? Yo, son, this Krypton show coming on Sci-Fi is so nuts. It's like it's a part of the DC entertainment universe. And what's crazy about that is it's a prequel to Superman in Justice League. And it's about the House of El and Jor-El, and when he was young, and I guess him and Zod and them on Krypton and like doing all types of crazy stuff. And I don't know how that works. I really don't. I think it's a mini series or something like that, bro, but it looks sick. And it's like, it's ill because like it shows the planet by the sun and the planet's all broken up and split open. And it's like, our end, but let me tell you, our beginning, like our history is more than just the end. And the thing, the planet comes back together and it starts rewinding. Dude, fire. So fire, bro. I can't wait to watch this show. I've never been so excited for a sci-fi show in my life. This is like crazy right now. It looks pretty dope. But yeah, so listen, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna end the show for the MP3 crowd, and I will answer a few questions just to give you guys a heads up. I don't do the fanboy thing. That's not what we do here at Tick or on Super Podshots. So, don't get yourself blocked. And again, listen, I want to thank everybody for stopping out, man. Very grateful for the support, man. Everybody with the well wishes while I was away trying to recover and get better. Very thankful, man. Gave me a lot of strength. So I'm your host, KOR X Kal-El, the last son of planet Xbox, and I am off this planet. Peace. All right. Okay. Hector says I should start a Patreon. Yo, bro, I plan to. This spring, one of the things we're doing is myself and the Tick team, we're working on some merchandise for you guys, so that way you're not just giving us money. I had asked for a few donations if people were interested in donations, so I just put it up there. But I do have a Patreon. I do plan to start one, but I don't want to put it up until I have proper items to give you guys and stuff like that, because we do plan to open up a store in the future to sell gaming merchandise. And what I mean by that is like original stuff from Tick. We have a few ideas of the things that we want to do related to Xbox, PlayStation, your favorite personalities on our different podcasts, whether it's me or Nick, the King of Indies, or Fame Entertainment, or Anchorman V, one of those type of things. And you can support whoever you want. If you find the shirts that look cool with characters, or if you want to pick up, little stickers or keychains or posters or whatever, we're going to try to do all of that for you guys, because we know that you guys love the support, positivity that we try to bring to you. And we want to make sure that we give you stuff that's worth it, not just something with our logo on it like some people do. No disrespect to people who do that, but I feel like I'd be shafting you if I just gave you a TICGN logo for like $10 or $15. Now I want to give you something that's worth it, because you guys deserve it. Let me see. So let's see what the first question is. TF guy says, perfect dark third person. No, stop saying that. Who started that terrible idea? People keep saying it. Well, I'll tell you what happened, TF. It actually started on Tick Podcast. I had Ken Lobb on the show in 2014. If you head on over to our entertainment section and scroll down a bit, you'll see our interview with Ken Lobb. And I suggested to him that they should do a third person Perfect Dark. And at the time, and the reason why I did that mainly was because they had the exclusivity to exclusivity to Tomb Raider, but they don't own Tomb Raider. And this was before Recore was out, before they had a third party female protagonist. And I felt it was really important with all these female leads starting to come in that Microsoft put Joanna at the forefront, but they already have so many shooters. Like they already had a sci-fi game with Halo. Then you have a third-person shooter with Gears. Then you had Quantum Break was being worked on. It was just like shooter after shooter after shooter. And I felt a third-person adventure, stealth action would have been better suited for her instead of another first-person game, being that Microsoft is known for so many shooters. So it made sense at the time. And to this day, I still think they should do it. But hopefully we'll see what happens. Maybe they can do something like Metal Gear 2, where it kind of went from third to first. Like if you aim down sights and went first person, but a lot of action, a lot of movements was in third person, that would be pretty dope. So we'll see what happens with it. If it shows up at E3, there's no guarantees. Rumors are rumors. I'm hearing Microsoft may show up a new Splinter Cell, a new Perfect Dark, Battletoads, and Rise. Those are the 4 games I heard that they may have as surprises. Besides that, I don't know what else they may have. None of those games could show up. Some of those games could show up. I'm not guaranteeing anything. I'm just telling you what I've been hearing through the interwaves. Pixel Dude 101 says PlayStation has the best exclusives. They do have some really good ones. They really do. I mean, I can't sit up here and lie about that. Zedpo1 says, what game rumors have you been hearing for Xbox? Pretty much what I just said. And of course, OG Xbox One BC, which I don't know how that would work. Honestly, what would be amazing though is if they did it and they gave it to you on like that $10 a month pass, or like they gave you like an OG Xbox pass for $10. You have access to the entire OG Xbox library. That would just kill. Could you imagine that? That would just destroy. Oh my God. People will lose their mind. PlayStation fans will slit their wrists. Be funny. D21 exclusive. What's up, brother? Do you think Fusion Frenzy will either get remade or a sequel that will be a great party game that Xbox and every console in general lack that can sell consoles? I don't know if it'll sell consoles, but they absolutely need to remake Fusion Frenzy. I love that game so much, man. You know, I think about that game often. I used to play a lot of party games on my GameCube, Mario Party in particular, with, at the time, my girlfriend, who is now my wife, and my sisters and some of my best friends. And we would sit there for hours just playing Mario Party 6, Mario Party 7 on GameCube. And it was fun. And then we would play Fusion Frenzy, trying to put the orbs in the bucket, punching people, stealing their orbs, doing the sumo bowls, doing the like go-karts with the line, trying to blow people up. It's a very fun game, but it needs to be expanded upon. But it would make a great like $15 1999 game, like just a digital release. Now my problem with Microsoft and their digital releases is they just don't promote them. I don't know why they don't do that. It's like the day before they put out a tweet and then they put it up in the store and that's it. It's almost like the marketing team only promotes Halo, Gears, and Forza. That's why people only know about Halo, Gears, and Forza. That's how I feel sometimes though, like real talk, because it's just like Recore barely got any promotion. I barely saw Quantum Break until like a couple of weeks before it dropped. People always ask, when is this game coming out? But you'll hear about Horizon. You'll hear about PlayStation games being freaking movie theaters and on commercials after Super Bowls, and like PlayStation goes all out. I don't know what's happening with Microsoft. I tell you, I just feel like Microsoft's budget just is not the same it was as it was for 360, and they hindering the marketing and they're hindering certain things that as a console brand Microsoft should be doing, but they're not because they don't have the finances. I think They still have a budget that they have to abide by, but I think they don't have the finances that they used to have with 360, where everything was so prominent. Like even on the internet, you don't see game commercials for a lot of Xbox exclusives. You just don't. And then people sit up there and wonder why these games don't sell. People like, I didn't even know the game came out. Crazy stuff, man. Just crazy stuff. Edge Excel, my editor-in-chief at TICGN says, will you offer photos of you in your hospital gown as a patron reward? No, I will not do that. I don't think people want to see that. It's not a good look at all. I don't know how many times. I'm pretty sure I scared some nurses with darkness. It's pretty devastating in there. But listen, it is what it is, man. If I'm sitting there watching the game and you don't knock on the door, you walking at your own risk. Okay, ain't no shame in my game. I'm proud of my, I ain't scared of nothing. So it is what it is. Funny stuff though. Let me see. Fal Davikin, what's up, brother? Cal, when are you doing your rare interview with Craig Duncan? I'm gonna hit him up soon because he wanted me to hit him up actually now. I'm trying to set up 3 interviews. I don't really want to give it away because listen, I don't do the competition thing, but let's keep it real. There's always competition. And as media, I always want to get the best scoops for my team first. I'm just keeping it 100. Like if you're not competitive, like even if we're all friends, you still got to be competitive. This is like I'm not Phil Spencer, man. I'm not shaking people's hands out here. Okay. I'm out here trying to be the best. I'm trying to be the premier podcast for Xbox, not the number 2 podcast for Xbox. You know what I'm saying? But still, I'm looking at it from the perspective of, I've been in talks with Adam Boyce for a minute. Me and Craig have spoken one-on-one, and I'm trying to get Shannon Loftus on the show, which me and Shannon have been talking for a minute as well. It's scheduling, man. It's tough. It's really difficult with E3 and people working on games and stuff like that. But I spoke to some people at PR that it may go down. I don't want to promise nothing because things change all the time, but we'll see. So I'm working towards that. We'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully I can have one of those guys on the show soon. Adam Boy's show was so awesome. You guys are going to love this show. Adam Boy's is cool as hell. Like a lot of people give him slack because he worked for PlayStation, but he just was doing his job. I can't fault him for that. Cool as hell though. Funny dude. Funny dude, laid down. My man said Gucci. He told me Gucci. I'll never forget that. Sitting in a party. I'm sitting in the chat with him. I'm like, yeah, Adam, my bad. We're trying to get everything straight. He said, okay, cool, not a problem. Everything Gucci? I'm like, did Adam Boyce just ask me if everything was Gucci? What? It's funny stuff. Oh, man. Let's see here. Will, what's up, Will? Will says, question about this year's games. Do you think Crackdown 3, Sea of Thieves, and State of Decay feel further away due to the dry spell? I feel like we need new exclusives ASAP. They do feel far away. Absolutely. They feel far away because of the simple fact that we had the cancellations in the beginning of the year. If for example, Microsoft doesn't cancel Fable and they don't cancel Scalebound, but they tell you they're coming out in 2017, no one complains about Xbox having no games. And that's the God honest truth. No one complains about that. No one says anything about it. Because of the simple fact that you're going to have Scalebound and Fable and Crackdown, State of Decay and Forza 7 and then Cuphead and Ashen and all these games coming out at the end of the year. What you would have is people saying you got nothing to play right now, or it's pretty sparse, or Microsoft once again floods all their games to the end of the holiday season. That's what would have happened. And what's weird about that is that everybody who saw Scalebound, everybody hated the game. Like I don't know if it was just me, but all of a sudden, for some apparent reason, everybody was talking about how this game is like the greatest game since sliced bread once it got canceled. But prior to it being canceled, I saw no one with any interest in the game. Most people said they wasn't even getting the Xbox. You know what they said? True story. Every PlayStation fan that I spoke to said the game looks good. It would do better on PlayStation. Keyword, it would do better on PlayStation. Not that game looks good. I'm going to buy it on X. I'm going to get an Xbox and buy it on Xbox. It would do better on PlayStation. But suddenly it gets canceled. Oh, I'm never getting an Xbox. Never buying this console. Microsoft is terrible. They're anti-consumer. Yada, yada, yada. Alt-right, yada. That's like what it was. It was crazy. So it's just one of those things where Microsoft was in a lose-lose situation. Scalebound really wasn't that devastating. It was devastating because it killed the diversity that they were bringing with the Japanese title, but it was way overblown by people who had no interest in Xbox, which I just find absolutely hilarious. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, the Perfect Dark thing, D21 says, I agree. Perfect Dark definitely has to be a first person shooter. People will be upset if it isn't looked at. If it isn't, look at the Conquer on HoloLens. But that's the thing. But Conquer's not really a game, though. There's a big difference. That Conquer would never release on Xbox. HoloLens Conquer is for developers to understand how to make platformers using HoloLens. So when you do come out with this AR, VR stuff with their headset that supposedly Microsoft is building with AMD, you'll understand how to make a platformer that's not Conquer. But Perfect Dark, I know a lot of people. This is what happens. This is what normally happens, right? People ask for the same stuff. Gears 4, for example, right? Gears 4, though it's probably a really good game, isn't considered a good Gears. It's rated like an 85, but it's supposedly the lowest rated Gears. And it really plays like the original Gears of War, but it's still lowly rated. And some people feel like it's too much of the same. Perfect Dark as a first-person shooter would be too much of the same. Perfect Dark really the franchises need to be rebooted in order to be refreshed and feel new. It really does. Like a franchise like that should really be refreshed and it needs to feel new. You don't have first of all, it's not a lot of stealth action games in the first place. Metal Gear is no longer run by Kojima. He's out. We don't know when we'll see another Metal Gear. I'm not saying you need a Metal Gear clone. However, having a game that is in the realm of Metal Gear and you're dealing with people and aliens and espionage and Area 54, like, dude, that could be something special, especially if they make it realistic. And that's the only concern that I have. Where do you go art style? Because shout out to Dizzy, who's in the chat right now. My homeboy Dizzy showed me something earlier. And he showed me this game on Steam. And it's a pirate game. And it looks dope. I can't, Black Widow or Black something like that. And it looks dope. And that game is probably going to be real successful because it looks like a game people want to play as a pirate. Sea of Thieves is Rare. And Rare is like family orientated. But when you look at the two, I immediately don't want Sea of Thieves. Like as soon as I seen it, I was like, they need to bring this game to Xbox. And if that game came to Xbox, I wouldn't play Sea of Thieves. I would play the other pirate game. So a game like Perfect Dark, even though it's always been not the most graphically realistic game, they need to make that game realistic. I think Rare needs to really step up, or somebody third party wise really needs to step up and take that game to another level and make it more realistic graphically. And they really need to concentrate on trying to build this and reboot this franchise so that way it can be a new franchise, not just Perfect Dark continuing over. They should really start from the beginning, a new Joanna story, a new like a lot of these old franchises that Microsoft has are good. But you gotta reboot them. You can't just continue on. You just can't. Franchises get stale, and if you just try to use the same formula, if it hasn't worked before, what you think is going to make it work now? This is why I get upset with Fable and the Fable fans. No, don't change Fable. Why? You act like Fable was killing the game. You act like Fable was selling like 9 million copies, like it was Halo or something like that. Fable was a B-tier franchise. I don't care what none of y'all say. Fable was a B-tier franchise. It's a really good franchise, but it was a B-tier franchise, bro. It was a B-tier franchise. Let's keep it real, son. It was Halo, Gears, Forza. That's your top three. Then you had Crackdown, Fable, and what was the other game they had? It was Crackdown, Fable, and something else. They had, and it was those, and that was their B tier. And those games never did like amazing numbers. Like they did good. They were exclusive IPs, but they weren't like knocking them out the park. Now, long term, sure, of course, that's long term. But you got games like Gears and Halo doing like 1 million in a week. They were knocking out like 2-3 million in like a year. Like it was crazy. You wasn't getting that with Fable. So people got to understand that there was something about Fable, besides not living up to expectations of Peter Molyneux, and just kind of being overhyped or overrated in a way. They never superseded, I guess, the greatness of the first one. The second one was my favorite one because I didn't play the first one. I didn't like the third one. I thought the third one was terrible. It was super short. The choices at the end were just like retarded. It's just the last one to me was bad, but the first one I heard was amazing, and I didn't play Anniversary. I just couldn't get into it. So I just really think that a game like Fable needs to be rebooted. It just does. The formula did okay, but it doesn't work. Microsoft can't afford to come out with any new IPs any longer that don't hit. They need a hit. Every generation they've had a hit. Xbox, they had Gears. They had Xbox, the original Xbox, they had Halo. I'm sorry, they had Halo. On 360, they had Gears and they have Forza. Now on Xbox One, they don't have that hit. They haven't come out with a new IP on Xbox One that's been a smash hit to the level of a Gears, a Halo, or a Forza yet. Now, Crackdown 3 has the potential because of what it's doing innovation-wise, and if they can capture the spirit of Grand Theft Auto and a little bit of Infamous, they may have something special because the single player can play like Grand Theft Auto, but you're a super cop. So you have the ability to use your powers and abilities and team up with other super cops to take down people in this grand, beautiful neon city, which I think could be really special if done right. And then you have the online destruction, which looks amazing. And if that works, you money, you good. But if it doesn't, then you fall back into the trap of Crackdown. It's just Crackdown. And that is not a success, but it's not a hit. And you need a hit. Horizon is a hit for PlayStation. Killzone never was ever going to compete with Halo. It just wasn't. PlayStation fans can tell you everything that they want to tell you. It's not a Halo killer. I know people talked about it as a Halo killer. It never was. It never will be. But you know what Guerrilla did? They turned around and they dropped Horizon, and that is a hit. And that is a new franchise. Naughty Dog turned around and they dropped The Last of Us 2. The Last of Us, and now they got The Last of Us 2, and that's going to replace Uncharted, and that's a hit. They have two franchises to continue on. This is why I want 343 and the Coalition to make new IPs, because they're good teams. They're talented teams, but you got to allow them to create. These are two franchises from two other studios. And I get it. Some people like, they came to those studios to work on those games in particular. Let me tell you something right now. No one wants to work on the same game for 30 years. At some point, you're going to want to do something new and fresh, and probably sooner than 5, honestly. So I really think that if Microsoft allowed 343 to create at least one more franchise and Coalition to create one more franchise, then you can alternate and learn from those two franchises and see how those two franchises affect people. But that could be that could be 4 games that you have with 2 new IPs from your best studios. I still think that's important. I never liked the whole third party idea because you're relying on third party. Look at Remedy. This is exactly what I meant the first time. Remedy came out, dropped Quantum Break. Now Remedy has moved on to doing third party games for PlayStation as well. You'll never see another Quantum Break until Remedy's ready. Microsoft owns the IP, but Remedy has the formula. They have the idea. They have the story. So you'll never see a Quantum Break if you want one again. And they don't plan on coming back anytime soon. Same thing with Scalebound. They own the IP, but what can you do with the IP if the studio decides that they no longer want to work on the game? This is why, and I said this to Phil. It's making me upset right now. I said that to Phil. Phil kind of brushed it off like, well, it doesn't matter. A game is a game, a studio. No, it's not, bro. It's not. Because if you can control your first party. If you want a game to come out and the game is doing successful, you can make the game come out. The team is built for it. But if a third party, you have no control over a third party once the contract is up or the deal doesn't fall through. So I always hated that idea. And now it's burning them. It's burning them, bro. It's burning them, son. Now you're about to make me get into a rant. I'm about to be on this thing at like 1 a.m. Anyway, well, listen, man, I want to thank everybody for stopping out. I really appreciate the support as usual. I had a lot of fun tonight. Feels good to be back, just talking up a storm with you guys about Xbox, Scorpio, exclusivity, and all this stuff like that, man. I look forward to E3, hanging out with my team, hanging out with my boys. My boy Cognito's in here. You know how we do. We had a blast last year. It was crazy. So listen, man, I will be back on Friday. I will try to shoot a show like around 11 p.m. again, if possible. And we have Tick Podcast episode 50 tomorrow with myself, Anchorman V, and B Money 101. The team reunites, the Trinity, and we'll get a chance to talk. We're also doing a tournament, some type of tournament through TICGN called Tabletop Racing. If you have that game, it costs $15. You have an opportunity to win either Mass Effect Andromeda, what's the game? Ghost Recon Wildlands or Dead Rising 4. If you come in first, second, or third in this racing tournament. So sign up at Tick Club. Go to TIC Club on your Xbox. Sign up there. Leave a message and say you're interested in joining the tournament. Guys will get you in. The tournament starts April 29th. You could win any one of those games if you come first, second, or third. And one of our admins will give you the rules on how to be a part of that tournament. That's our first tournament that we got coming up, and we'll have more coming soon. So again, I want to thank everybody for stopping out, man. Make sure you check out Multiverse on Mondays with Anchorman V and his team for the geek culture. You also have Trophy Life every other Tuesday, Wednesday, Super Podshots, as well as Double XP, Thursday, Tick Podcast, as always. And make sure you get your news from TICGN.com. Listen, I heard about what happened with the dude from Kotaku, man. Listen, if you don't want to support these websites and these guys who you feel are objective, whether it's Xbox or PlayStation, you can combat that, man. Support the smaller guys. These guys out here are passionate. They're gamers. They don't have any marketing deals with anybody. These guys are literally busting their butts to report fair news to you. And even though I like Xbox, I'm still objective and can say what I want to say about Xbox, whether I like it or not. And be honest and logical in my thought process. And the same thing with PlayStation. I wouldn't bash PlayStation, anything like that. But if it's something I don't agree with, I'm going to let you know. And if it's something I think PlayStation is doing great, I'm going to let you know. That's truth. And I don't think people give that enough nowadays. So make sure you support TICGN, man, because those guys work really, really hard. Very grateful for the support there as well, because we've been blowing up thanks to you guys out there who actually hit the website up and get news from there and leave comments and things. So thank you. So again, I'm your host, KLWarX Kal-El, the last on the planet Xbox. I'll be back on Friday and tomorrow with the Tick team, and I'm off this planet. You guys have a great night. And again, thank you for the well wishes. Peace.